to the Convince Me podcast, where we are on a mission to convince you to step out of your gaming comfort zone and try something new. So let's get to convincing. As you may remember, last week Ryan and I discussed the games Lost in Random by Zoink and Eternal Strands by Yellow Brick Gaming. And we had a pretty good conversation. It actually seemed like those may be games that we will probably try at some point. Although the only problem that I think we're starting to find with the this podcast so far is that we are acquiring quite a backlog, and time is of the essence, as we've discussed on multiple occasions. So, Ryan, have you at all had any time to play anything that we have discussed so far?
No, and it makes me so genuinely sad. First off, I freaking love your voice, by the way. You have such dulcet tones. I just want to say
Oh,
that.
what a
I don't know
guy!
if that's fatigue from working through the week. I don't know if that's tiredness that's making you got that morning voice, you know.
Mm.
But no, you're gonna be real mad after this episode. I'm just letting you know. But it's one of those things where you have a full-time job, you have a family, you have more than one hobby, and these are all games that I really want to play, but no, I haven't had time, and it's just going to keep building because we've done really good jobs of finding games that are interesting and fit our niche of what we're looking for. And that's a problem. It's a great problem to have because it means that you won't get bored. But the problem is that time is the main factor, which, what are you going to do? But
I
speaking...
think that the thing that actually needs to go said here is the credit is really due to whoever is responsible for compiling the games for Games Pass.
Sure.
Because what they've actually done then is they've assembled a library of games that, at least as far as what we've found, are pretty universally playable. And for an offering of, we'll say, quote unquote, free games relative to just the price of the subscription, um, all of these games being viable choices for somebody who, may not want to go drop $70 on AAA titles, but who has the time and the desire to play games. This list so far has been pretty remarkable.
I think I actually know what it means. It just means that we are incredible at judging books by their cover. I'm just going to say it.
Or very lucky.
We're very lucky. And I don't know about you, but my luck streak has continued. But speaking of family, because, family is what takes up most of my time when it's not work involved. And I I had an experience at our grocery trip. And we do our grocery trip on Saturdays. Go to the store, obviously, grocery trip. And my son is 3. And so that means we are in the throes of potty training.
Mm.
Pretty good at it. Still working on it. So we're at the store, and I'm like, hey, dude, we got to go to the bathroom because you haven't gone in a while, so we need to go try. Fine, whatever. So we go, and we get in there, and we're trying, and I just hear the door behind me open. And somebody comes in, I don't think anything of it, and all of a sudden I hear somebody peeing in the stall. And I'm like, okay, like literally, it is so whatever, obviously. So I go to wash our hands after we're finished up, and I look. The door to the stall, wide open. Dude went into the stall to pee, didn't even bother closing. He's just going with the stall door open. And I'm like, when you're at home, sure, it's your house. In a public bathroom, to just... to just go?
To be fair, this is only problematic unless, or this is only problematic if the guy dropped trow. and like fully on out there.
Like the
Because otherwise, like
kindergartner
yeah, right,
with the shirt up and the pants pulled down.
yeah, Butters from South Park, just going all for it. So it's only a problem there because otherwise this isn't that different from just a urinal experience. Because I
There's
mean,
just,
we've all been to public bathrooms. Well, all men have been in public bathrooms where there's no divider between the
can
urinals.
we
So
talk about how that's a big problem, right?
yeah, right.
That should
I'll
be
never
illegal or
understand.
something.
I'll never understand. Plywood is not that expensive. I don't care if it makes your bathroom look cheap. Um,
That's
I've been in nice 5-star hotels with no dividends or no dividers between urinals. I'm talking hotels for
that's
three, four, $500 a night,
that's diabolical,
and you're in the conference area because you're obviously there for a convention. Because I don't have money like that. Um,
bro.
and it's just like you're talking. You got that 2.5 foot space between each individual one, and like, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
You gotta make sure that you're in the urinal. But I
I mean,
get it.
sure, but then
It's
you get that if you're bad enough, then you get that lovely pear-shaped line of wet and gross, and you got to go change immediately. Like, I don't, I don't care how nice your bathroom is. I don't want to touch your urinal.
I
I'm
get
not
it.
trying to have the mark of the beast. It's not gonna be me.
I get it. I 100% get it. But the issue is that there's just something about being in a stall with the door just open, and it's like it just felt, I don't know, but I had to be like, I probably should have monitored myself, but I let out an audible oh as we were headed over to the sink. And my son, he goes, "What, Dad?" I'm like, well, we really gotta wash our hands. Your hands are so dirty. And I'm just trying to like stand in between him, just because I don't want him turning around. But yeah, that was a time. That was a thing that happened. So you know,
Oh boy. Um, so my life is infinitely less humorous at the moment. I did, however, okay. So you know this. I love energy drinks.
mm,
Yeah, they're poison. They'll put me in the ground early. That's fine. They're delicious, and I live my life. So leave me alone. Um, and I've been trying to find the new Red Bull for a long time because there's now a Red Bull Pink Edition, pastel pink can.
oh,
Real
that's fun.
excited. I saw it once as we were leaving a Walmart, and I had already bought everything, and I couldn't logistically justify going back into line with a single can of Red Bull to try it. But since then, I have never found it, and this was probably a month and change ago,
That
and
also
I've
means
been
going
so
back into
disappointed.
Walmart,
Well, yeah,
staying in
but
Walmart
like
longer.
life
So
happens. It's cool. Because I had read that it was only a Walmart exclusive, I believe. And so I was filling up gas yesterday to come home from work, and in the gas station there was the Red Bull. I believe it's wild berry flavor.
got some wings.
Um, they only, well, I mean always, but with like three eyes because that gets you sued if you say it otherwise. Um, and I gotta say, I they only had the sugar free, which is fine. Their Red Bull's pretty good about their sugar free and non sugar free being about the same in taste. It was very reminiscent of the red Pez. So if you were someone who actually ate Pez candy, that is what it reminded me of, at least maybe in the aftertaste. Otherwise, it was just a good standard berry flavored energy drink. I would not say that it's as good as the new Monster Juice flavor Viking Berry. That
It
one is
sounds awesome.
definitely it's incredible. It's more of like a blueberry acai flavor to me. Yeah, it's fantastic. The wild berry is good though. Probably a strong like 7 out of 10. Would recommend if you like berry flavor. I wouldn't necessarily put it in the same tier as Red Bull Blue or Yellow, but very very good, very exciting.
You're just saying words. I haven't tried any of these things.
Oh no.
I uh I got some Wegmans ginger.
Oh,
It's
okay.
delicious.
I don't have Wegmans, so
That is
so
a
story time.
shame.
When Darren was a wee lad in college, uh, he when he would go out, for a night of debauchery and college related activities.
Not debauchery.
Debauchery. Typically, he would combine alcohol and Red Bull, and that was just a thing he did.
You just got
Uh,
so many wings.
Tequila and Red Bull. That still to this day is a thing in my life. And so that was when Red Bull first started to come out with flavors. So red, blue, and yellow were the first three that came out. And man, the first time that I ever had, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was a type of Bacardi rum and Red Bull Blue. It changed my life forever. I think it was at a New Year's Eve event at a club in downtown State College where I was going to school. Uh, and from that point on, the flavors of Red Bull have just put them at the peak of excellence. Everybody else is caught up now, but man, let me tell you, I have a soft spot in my heart for Red Bull. Nostalgia everywhere. It's a
Yeah,
good time.
I bet. Speaking of poor choices,
Oh yeah, let's
let's
do those.
let's. I wanna. This might end up being a rant. I don't know. I am not the biggest fan of where the gaming industry is potentially headed. And my fears are slightly being confirmed by a recent shuttering that was done by WB Games. WB Games recently, like just a few days ago, I believe, shuttered Monolith Games, Player First, and WB San Diego. And the reason that they did this, according to GamesIndustry.biz, was for a, quote, strategic change in direction, end quote. Now, the main issue is the amount of people laid off. As some people are aware, for those who don't know, the past couple years, I think last year it was really, really bad. There have been a ton of layoffs in the gaming industry. Some of them for purposes of finances, some of them because the studios didn't make games that performed well. Lots of reasons. The issue is that this WB shuttering choice, according to the article, it's not super clear exactly how many are laid off, but it is a minimum number of employees across these three companies was 250, with a potential high end of 750. That's a lot of layoffs. Now, are they folding some of those people into other companies or back in? I don't know. I don't think that was stated. But I have an issue with the wording strategic change in direction because as far as I'm aware, last time I checked, I know that gaming is a business, and I know that businesses want to make money. But I think we've lost the plot when we sit here and forget that just making a good game will get you some merit. It will get you some money. Now, if you're putting in hundreds of millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars into making a game, then yeah, you're taking a risk, but that's why you let the passion come out of it, I feel like. Right? Am I
I
crazy?
mean, no, no, that's a very purist view of it. I mean, at its core, yeah, if you are a studio and you make a game that you are universally passionate about, that should come through in some way, shape, or form. But the problem here is that because of I guess we could say the fickleness of gaming consumers, the games that you are most passionate about will not necessarily land the way that you want them to, which can put you in this exact same place, right? If you pour a ton of resources into a game, the game flops. Now the studio flops, people lose money. And then people just go right back to playing the same stuff they always do, meaning your Fortnites and your things that fall into that arena. Now,
Sure.
obviously, there's the other end of that spectrum, right? With Astrobot. Astrobot, I feel like, is the exact opposite end of the spectrum, where it was just a good game that the developers were passionate about,
Shout out to
and
Sobo.
no doubt, Sobo. I thought it was a Sobi. I don't know.
Let
It
me
doesn't matter.
check my math.
It don't matter because I thought the studio's name was Let's Play.
Oh my gosh, you're a smart boy. It's Team Asobi. Shout out to Team
Yeah, because
Asobi.
that means Let's Play in Japanese. Um,
Oh, look at you, weeb.
yeah, buddy. Um, but anyway, so and his whole speech at the Game Awards after they won Game of the Year is a true testament to that. Where just make the games that matter, and everything else follows. It's a weird space to be in though, because as just the gaming community is changing, there's just it almost feels like there's development studios getting punished for creativity, which
What?
is a shame.
So you say yes that there's a chance that the game may flop, not do well, whatever.
Hmm.
But I can guarantee you, if there isn't passion put into the project, that it won't do well either.
Correct.
So why you're going from a percentage chance of failure, and by taking out potential passion or throwing in crunch or throwing all this other stuff in, all you're doing is increasing the likelihood of it flopping. That's all you're doing.
Agreed.
You're not going to get a
And
better game from rushing it.
correct. I mean, Cyberpunk is the perfect testament to that.
Yeah.
The truest "damned if you do, damned if you don't" conversation. Where on one hand you want to give the consumers the game, but on the other hand they're getting angry that you keep delaying it. So then do you just put it out and then try to fix it in post? I mean, that's a whole conversation to be had. Um, and wow, yeah, no, I could go on about that for a while. But the real issue here is, on top of the loss of jobs and on top of the compression of effort that can now be done, we've just lost one of, if not the most interesting systems in any game in the last 20 years by the
So
shuttering of these studios with the loss of the Nemesis system.
so for context, for those who don't know, which super possible, the Nemesis system was a system that was created by Monolith to use in the Lord of the Rings games they made called Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And it was an RNG system, which stands for Random Number Generator. It was a system that was alive, and so it was meant to give you ownership of the world you're playing in. So the way it worked is there was an army, there were captains and sergeants, and there was a hierarchy of the enemy army. And as you fought these officers and these captains, it would create disarray in their army. And if you went up against one of these people and they killed you, you would come back to life, but it would make them stronger, it would alter them in some way, and when you went back to try and fight them again, they would reference the fact that they beat you. Or, for example, if you scarred an enemy, like burned their face, and you went back and they killed you, you went back, their name would be changed to reference whatever happened to their face. They would comment on the fact that you damaged their face, and it would be an ever-evolving system. And it even got to the point where if they beat you enough, they would get stronger, and then they could challenge the person above them to essentially raise their ranks in the army. And it was a system that created your story. And it was so cool and so well done. And then Monolith patented it. I don't know if it was WB's choice or Monolith. I don't know whose choice it was, but they patented it. Now, what Darren is saying with the company being shuttered, that system is buried. They didn't use it after Shadow of War. They planned a Wonder Woman game where they were going to use it, and then for whatever reason, they changed the production of that game, got rid of the system, and then they were going to change it into, I believe it was like a God of War style action-adventure game, which is fine. but that system got patented and then immediately never used. What are you doing? Why? For what? And they made a comment. They made a comment from, I can't remember who it was in the company, but, quote, as difficult as today is, we remain focused on and excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios and getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond, end quote. Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, pretty high-quality games. Condemned
Mhm.
1 and 2 by them. Pretty quality games. What are you looking for? What are you doing?
And I think they're actually asking themselves that exact question. What are they looking for? Because they probably don't know. They don't know what kind of game they need to make in order to hit that magical formula that games like Astrobot or Metaphor or oh gosh, Ghost of Tsushima or
Well, that's Sony exclusive.
Baldur's Gate.
That's
I just mean in general, right? Like these studios have figured out how to make these games that are almost cultural icons at this point. And while Condemned was good, it wasn't as popular as perhaps it could have been. And the Lord of the Rings games, even though they were fantastic games, the Lord of the Rings is such a niche community with a relatively old IP.
I don't
You know,
know if it's
this
niche
current
anymore.
generation of gamers, but this current generation of gamers didn't grow up with the Lord of the Rings movies like you and I did, or they
No,
didn't grow up reading the books in school like
but
we did in the generations prior.
they had the Hobbit trilogy though, and then
Yeah, but they didn't watch it.
that god awful Gollum game. But it's one of those things that like yeah, I feel like granted I have no proof to back this up, but I feel like Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor potentially brought that back. Like it was such a cool idea. The novelty of the idea alone was enough to draw people in. The fact that the
Do you,
world grew and changed with you.
do you remember when Shadow of War came out?
What year?
Hmm.
I told you a couple episodes ago. I'm dumb. I don't remember years.
I believe so. It came out almost 10 years ago.
The
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 current
second
generation
one?
of game, Shadow of Mordor was almost 10 years ago. The second one, I want to say was like 2018 in that ballpark. So 7 years ago. A lot of the current generation of like younger gamers now where that type of thing would kind of be targeted to would have been anywhere from early high school to elementary school and wouldn't have been playing those games in the first place.
I
So
mean, I
here now is a
guess.
studio almost a decade removed who's done nothing except have development dollars pumped into them to produce nothing.
No, they
At that point,
Shadow of
from a pure business perspective, that makes that studio a liability, not an asset.
well,
So
no, I
it's
don't think Shadow of War was their last game. I actually don't know what their last game was. Their last game,
the fact that we don't know, I think, says everything, though, doesn't
actually,
it?
no, shoot, it was Shadow of War, but they were working on a Wonder Woman game.
Shadow of War release date was 2017.
2017. So 8 years.
So we are almost a decade removed from that game when they've still had development dollars getting pumped into them to try to do something. From a pure business perspective, that makes this game a liability. This is not an asset. And so for all the good and for all the things that we're now losing with this studio, at the end of the day, the only thing that is real is what tangible additions can you make to the space, to the gaming sphere. In this case, they haven't. And
But the
so it sucks. And I'm hoping that there's something that can be done to salvage what we're now losing. And I'm hoping this doesn't continue to be a trend in the gaming world where studios keep compressing and hoping that they can use less and still hit more. But I mean, all we can really do is watch because you and I are on the outside. So all
yeah,
we
I've
see is this
right,
microcosm, right?
right. And I think the other thing to consider is why did it take why was it taking so long to make something? They clearly showed that they can make something. What
Yeah.
was happening that they weren't making anything else or it was taking so long? That who is that? Who's that on? And yeah, it's I don't know. I don't think that it's a super hot take to say that if you make games you care about and really pour into them, it's it lessens the recipe for disaster. If you don't put care into your game, I mean, it's not going to do better. Nobody ever has sat there with a game that was crunched and rushed at the end of its development and been like, I'm glad this came out in the state that it did. Obviously, there are some developers that can handle it, whatever. But I don't think, I know, crazy take. I don't think crunching and rushing a game it makes it a better game. I know. Crazy me.
It's funny you say that, because we could probably go on about this for a while. But on the topic of crazy takes, that actually brings us to our question of the week for at least the two of us conversationally. But please, anywhere where we post this, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, where have you, please feel free to give us yours. But Ryan, what
Hmm.
is your hottest gaming take?
So I am typically pretty by the numbers, right? I I'm very easy to entertain because, as I've said, I'm dumb. Easy to entertain. My brain is boop. But my hot take involves Monster Hunter. I know Monster Hunter Wilds just came out, but as much as I feel like the game could totally cater towards me, I have never gotten I've never been able to get down with the gameplay loop of Monster Hunter. I've tried. I tried World. I tried a little bit of Iceborne. I tried Rise. I've tried Monster Hunter Stories 2. I've tried so many of them, but I don't see the appeal of the gameplay loop because every time I've looked it up, everybody's like, you don't, and I could be misremembering, but you don't play Monster Hunter for the story. The story is there, but you're playing it for the gameplay loop. And I've tried the gameplay loop, and the worst part is I'm probably gonna try Rise. I'm probably gonna try Monster Hunter Rise, and I'll probably just play a few hours and then fall into the same thing I always do of just I don't see it. I don't see it. It's just not me, man.
I really wish I could contribute to this conversation, but I'm in the exact same place, except I've tried fewer of them and I've played even less. I don't know what it is. I'm right there with you. There's just something about it that, for whatever reason, it just doesn't do it for me. And maybe I just didn't get far enough into it to be given enough autonomy to get to that place. But this brings us to the other end of that coin, right? Where why should I have to get that far into it in order to get any enjoyment? I feel like a video game should not be like trying to convince somebody to watch One Piece, right? You have an hour to convince me that this game, no pun intended,
Well, you
that
said it. Roll credits.
that this game is something worth playing, and I've not found that in Monster Hunter.
the
So
craziest
that
part,
is that's definitely a hot take, but
the
it's not for me.
craziest part is that game is tailor made for you. You are the
I know,
guy who
I
loves
know,
farming and getting stronger and all that. It is tailor made for you.
I know.
For you, the guy who has spent hundreds, if not 1,000 hours farming Borderlands 2.
Hmm.
So that's crazy
And
that it
yet,
doesn't. I, I don't know, man. It's just yeah. I like I said, I will probably try Rise once it goes on discount of some sort or something. But it just hasn't grabbed me, and
yeah,
I don't see how it could, to be honest.
yeah. Well,
So that's
since you
me.
went ahead and insulted a whole group of fans of a beloved franchise, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing. My gaming hot take is that I absolutely and vehemently abhor stealth as a forced core mechanic of a game. And for that reason, for me personally, I think that the Metal Gear Solid franchise is a complete waste of time, effort, space, and money
Whoa, whoa,
because
whoa!
I hate stealth. I hate stealth in every game, and you know this because we have been on the phone when I have to get through a section of a game that forces me to use stealth, and I cannot do anything in any other way because then you fail the mission objective outright. I hate that so much when you force me to slow down my pace of progression because you enjoy stealth as a mechanic. Nope. And that is for that reason. That is why Deus Ex is one of my favorite games because you can play things stealth or you can just go straight in. It's why I like the newer Assassin's Creed games more than I like the old Assassin's Creed games because I don't have to be stealthy to play them, but you can be stealthy to play them. I hate stealth from the bottom of my very soul, and it is the reason why I can't even get into playing a stealth archer in Skyrim because I don't like it. I think stealth, if you force me to use stealth in a game, I will not play this game.
Okay, so we have to quantify what you mean,
Hmm.
because I will not stand by for Metal Gear slander ever.
Okay.
Now, when you say stealth, do you
Uh-huh.
mean purely avoiding being seen? Is that what you mean? Just like not getting
Or,
seen?
I mean, in part, but I don't like to move through things slowly. If I have a gun, I would use it.
You can in Metal Gear, especially
Kind
Phantom
of.
Pain. Oh no, you.
You mean I
So,
have to? Yeah, but I have to play through like 140 hours of Metal Gear to even understand anything about Phantom Pain. I
fun
promise I
fact.
won't do it. I
Fun
won't do it.
fact.
It's not gonna happen.
Phantom Pain is technically the first in the series because it's
Great. Don't care.
no, no, it's after Metal Gear Solid 3. I lied. Um, but yeah, no, that is genuinely, how dare you besmirch the name of Metal Gear in front of me?
It's done. I don't like stealth.
We will
I
have
hate it as a
words.
mechanic. I hate it as a system. And really, we could go even more broad. And I don't think that there should be any system that forces you to play the game in any one way, unless it's the core mechanic of the game. But it's for that exact reason why, to me, stealth as a core mechanic of a game, I will not play it. I hate it. I don't like it. So
Interesting,
there's that.
but then you said force you to play, but that's the nature of any action adventure game, or especially first person shooters, unless it's
Hmm.
Deus Ex. If you're playing a
Sure.
first person shooter, you have to shoot. You
Yep.
have to be whatever.
Hmm.
So you don't want a game to force you to play a mechanic that you don't like.
I specifically do not want a game that forces me to be stealthy. I
So
hate
then,
it as a mechanic. I hate it as a thing. I won't do it because if you don't like first person shooters, you're probably not playing Call of Duty.
so my question for that is, I'm assuming,
Hmm.
I think I know the answer. How did you feel about the MJ sections in Spider-Man?
Well, they took me a long time to do because I don't like it. And the last one, mind you, the original, we're talking about the original Spider-Man on PS4. Yeah.
Yes, not
Yeah.
Spider-Man
Okay.
2. I don't think
Right. I don't know. I didn't
forced
get
you
far enough
anything.
into it. Um,
Another hot
yeah, so
take,
the
but
very last one that you have to do, that's the most intricate one, of course. I hated every second of it to the point where I almost put the game down and didn't finish it.
good lord.
Hmm. Do you have more? Do you have more? Because I can promise you it's going to be the exact same way.
I mean, I do know what kind of game you like, so it makes sense.
In fact, what game was I just playing that you had massive swaths and missions that you weren't allowed to be seen during them?
Was it one of the Convince Me games?
It was Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was the game where there were sections of it where you can't be seen, you can't raise alarms, you can't use guns that aren't silenced, there can't be evidence of the body in there. No, I hate that. Absolutely hate it. And Cyberpunk is probably one of my favorite games that I've played in the last 5 years. And I had whole missions of that game where as soon as I saw the objective that says without being detected, I immediately would groan and put my controller down and pause it and have to collect myself mentally to get ready to force myself to do something I don't want to do.
I mean, yeah, knowing what your favorite games are definitely aligns. They're very bombastic and quick paced. So I get it. I get it. But there is one game.
It's even more simple than that.
Oh?
I am not a patient man.
No, you're not. No,
And
you're
so
not.
now this is a whole mechanic that forces me to be patient. I'm not going to do it.
But that's funny because what is your favorite game series of all time?
Series?
Yes. Favorite
Series.
series of games.
Series.
Come on
I
now.
mean, it's probably Borderlands, but like
Really? You're going to put that above
above Pokemon? I don't know.
You can put that above Pokemon. Pokemon is your favorite. You've been playing it the longest. You have the
They fit different needs.
they
I
do,
don't know. That's tough.
but Pokemon is your is it's like it's your series, and that game you have to be patient because you have to when you're hatching an egg you have to walk around and count steps and you don't get the bike to move fast until later, at least in the
No,
earlier
no, no,
games you have to breed and you have
no,
to
no,
wait
no,
for them to breed and all this other stuff.
no, 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 no. Running around in a circle is the impatient way to do it. The patient way to do it is to just put the egg in your party and keep playing the game.
Yeah, but you still have to
No, no,
do
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
That requires
That's
patience. But
and how does it require patience? When I didn't first start doing egg farming until I had a DS, and the DS had a joystick, and do you think for a second that I didn't go, specifically Gen 6, Kalos, Lumio City, that I didn't go and fold up an index card and cram it into my joystick and set my console down on a bike and then just went in circles until all of my eggs hatched? Of course I did that. That is the complete opposite of patience because I put it down and I did something else.
it's gracious, your
So
ADHD was just
miss me
punching
with
you in the
that
face.
entirely.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But your favorite game series, one of them at least, is Pokemon.
Yes.
And that brings me to why I said earlier that you might have some choices to make.
Hmm.
Because my game of the week was Cassette Beasts by Raw Fury. Raw Fury is a Swedish developer, and they have a couple of games under their belt, but the most recent one, I believe, was shown at a State of Play, the Sony State of Play, called Blueprints, which is a puzzle game. But Cassette Beasts it's a Pokemon-like game. And my question for you, Darren, you want to live in a world of Pokemon, but I'm curious, how would you feel if instead of catching Pokemon in the ball and then throwing them out to fight them, what if you had the ability to become the monster and fight as the monster?
So Digimon?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. There's a
Yeah.
whole that's a whole Digimon series. Like, yeah, I'm in.
Sounds pretty cool. And how would you feel if Pokemon? Because I was kind of into Digimon, but if Pokemon had like an isekai feel. For those who don't know, an isekai is basically a story where a character is taken out of their world and put in another world that they know nothing about to learn about this new world, and it's a power fantasy, all this other stuff, a lot of the time. But how would you feel if Pokemon was an isekai?
Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool, right?
If that I would kill to be isekai'd into that immediately.
Sounds pretty dope. Well, Cassette Beast is a Pokemon / Digimon-like game where there are monsters in this world called New Whirl, and you wash up on shore and are met by your trainer, Kaylee, who is there to help you. And your job is to familiarize yourself with this world, get to know the world, and when you first land on this beach, you wake up, you name your character, you design how they look and everything, And you proceed with Kaylee, who is on patrol, and you proceed back to your town. And on the way back, you're accosted by a monster. And she looks at you and she says, "It's okay, we can fight." And she gives you a choice. She says, "Spooky or cute?" And I went spooky. And she gives you a cassette player. For those who are too young to be watching this, a cassette player was an old... It was also called a Walkman, that you put cassette tapes in to listen to music before we had digital things, CDs, all that. And she gives you this cassette player with headphones, and you put cassettes into this player, and depending on what cassette you put in there, you transform into whatever monster is recorded on that cassette. And because I chose spooky, my first cassette was a monster named Bansheep. Bansheep is an astral type monster who is a ghost sheep with also some features of a banshee. Hence, Bansheep. You with me so far?
Uh-huh.
It's got a pixelated art style reminiscent of, I'd probably say, maybe DS. Maybe the DS style of Pokemon games, like that pixelated art style. Very well done. Imagine, like, Stardew Valley's pixelated art style. Not quite as colorful as Stardew Valley, but that style of pixel. Great music. And as you're getting into this fight, you choose moves, and you see your partner, Kaylee. Oh, by the way, this game can be played co-op with a partner who controls the other monster, because you always have a partner with you. She transforms into a monster called Sirenade, who is a siren that has music speakers around her. Sirenade. It's this is what I miss about Pokemon names, is when it was just straightforward, you know? Some of these you're like,
Still are.
Still is, but when you have over 1,000 of them, come on now. So, the battle system, which is really the biggest focus of a game like this. So you have AP. Every turn you get 2 AP. You have certain moves that use AP. So if you want to save AP, you use your basic move, which is either melee or ranged, and when you use that move, it will attack, obviously, but because you use the 0 AP move, your next turn you'll get 2 more, and then you can use stronger moves. There's no PP in this in this game. There's no move points. It is by battle, right? So you get an extra AP if you hit their weakness. And let me tell you, there are so many types in this game. There are types like plastic, glass, fire, obviously, astral, trying to think of what else. There's electricity, there's poison, there's metal. There's so many different types. Now, here's what kind of changes the game in a way. In Pokemon, when you hit somebody with a weakness, Darren, what does that do?
Double damage.
Double damage. What happens if you are a fire type and you hit them with a fire move and it's also
Resistant. Yeah. Resistance, half damage.
No, if you're a fire type and then you use fire on somebody who's weak to fire.
Oh, so then you also get a stab bonus because it's the same type attack as you, plus then the weakness damage.
Right, it's pretty cool, right? However, in this game, hitting them with a type advantage, depending on what it is, creates buffs and debuffs. So let me give you some examples. If you are an air monster and you hit a fire monster, you extinguish that monster. So it does extra damage, but it also extinguishes them, meaning that their ranged and melee attack decreases. Now, if you're an air type and you hit a plant type, you uproot that monster, and it causes AP drain, which means less AP per round. Another interesting one, if you're a fire type and you hit a plastic type, you cause that one to melt, and it puts toxins in the air, and it poisons. If you're a poison type and you hit an earth type, then that earth type will add poison attacks because I can't remember what it's called, but the poison essentially seeps onto the stalagmites and stalactites, causing their attacks to deal poison when they hit. So not only do you deal weakness and resistance and everything, but it also gives different things, meaning that there is some merit to hitting your ally with an attack depending on what it may do for them. So if you want to give your ally poison, maybe you hit them with a weak poison ability to have them attack with poisonous tips. Something along those lines. You look like you have a question. What is your question?
I have so many, but keep going.
So, when that's right. That's what happens. So, if you're fire and you hit a plastic type, you change that monster's type completely. So if you're plastic and you get hit by fire, you become a poison type. So, like, there is so many things that you can do. When you want to capture a monster, you record it onto a tape. And your TMs and HMs, for those who don't know, that is your abilities, like your attacks and things like that. Those are stickers that you stick onto the tape to give them moves that you can just remove, but you can only have it on one sticker on a person at a time. You can't apply it to multiple tapes. And the way it works is if you are in monster form and the monster's health depletes, you revert back to your human form and you have a separate bar. And every amount of damage past the monster's bar is then applied to you. So if the enemy is hitting you hard enough, they could just outright wipe you out. That hasn't happened to me yet. But what happens after you go down, you're kneeling for a bit, and then your next round you just pick who you want to replace them. And to heal the monsters, it's very interesting. Darren, do you recall when we were younger and you had a cassette tape, if the material inside came out or whatever, how did you get that back in there?
With a pencil.
With a pencil. So the healing item in this game is a pencil that you use to rewind the tape. If your tape gets broken, the revive item is a respooler to revive it. So that's the gist of it. And this game has my favorite thing in RPGs. The monsters can be seen on the overworld map. It is not random battle. So what's interesting about this is once you finish the tutorial per se, the game then becomes do what you want in whatever order you want. So eventually, and this is very, very early on in the game, so it's not spoiler, but within the first bit of the game, you stumble upon this, something comes out of the ground, and you go into it, and you see that it is a metro stop. And so you go into this metro stop, and as you're exploring, you're like, something feels weird. So you explore this metro stop, and your game starts glitching. And then this very odd, mismatch art style. So it is you go into the substation, and then something appears, and its art style does not match the game. It is not a pixelated being. It is this abstract series of shapes that you fight. And you find out it's called an archangel. And throughout the game, you're finding out more about who these archangels are, because your goal is to get off the island. And the archangels, apparently, if you beat them, you can get off the island. And as you're fighting this archangel, you and your partner have a moment of, oh craps, this is bad, we're about to lose. So your partner looks at you and goes, we can't die here. And so the game gives you a new combat option called fusion. So what that means is whatever monster you are and whatever monster your partner is, fuse together. And the craziest part, Darren, is that every combo of monsters has a unique design and name. So there's 128 monsters in this game. So that means that every combo of monsters has a separate design and separate name. And what that does is it makes your move stronger. You gain 4 AP per turn. Your health pool, I think, is increased. And it's super cool. And now you may be asking, can you just fuse whenever? Well, no, there's a meter. And you can't fuse with just anybody because you get different party members throughout the game. And another favorite feature of mine comes into play. In order to unlock fusion, you have to reach a certain relationship level with your party members. So to build your relationship meter, you have to do personal quests or companion quests. You have to do fights with them, and when you go back to camp, you talk to your party member. And you may unlock their personal quest to build up their bond. Like Haley's quest, not just the first part of it, is very interesting because you find out she has a connection to some weird people on the map. And before I let you get to your questions, there's one more feature. In every Pokemon, when your Pokemon reaches a certain level, Darren, what do they typically do?
Oh, there's one of my questions. Evolve.
They evolve. In this game, evolving is known as remastering. So I remastered my Banshee, and what was very interesting is, let me take a step back. To remaster your monster, they have to reach 5 stars. So every battle, you get experience and your monster gets experience, and so that you don't have to farm levels for your monsters, your character level determines what level they are. So I think I got to level like 23 or 24, maybe 25, so everything I caught was level 25. The only difference is, as you fight, they get stars, and all the stars do is just increases that one's stats. But as far as their health and like regular damage before the stars, that's dependent on your level. So you never have to worry about farming to keep them up with your party if you find a new favorite monster or whatever. So once they reach 5 stars, then you rest at camp and you have a choice to remaster them. When I remastered Banshee, it was very interesting because no other monster had this option. It gave me the tutorial of remastering, and Banshee was my option. And it gave me choices. I was like, what? Why? My choices were ascend to the afterlife or return to Earth. I'm like, what? What does this mean? Does this determine what evolution I'm going to get? Because I think it did. And so I chose ascend to the afterlife. And I can't remember what it became. It became Waltergeist. Pretty good. So that is the general idea of Cassette Beasts. It is so much fun that Darren and I are playing Avowed right now, and there were times where I had time to play a game, and I said, I think I'm going to put Cassette Beasts. I think I'm going to play Cassette Beasts right now because it's so much fun because it's so snappy, it's quick, and you just play the game. You go explore, you hear rumors from people, and that unlocks the quest. And the map is a square-based grid that you go to where the different quests are, and you can fast travel to the subway stations. And your ultimate goal is to beat all the archangels to find a way off the island and everything. But I was just having so much fun fighting monsters, leveling them up. I was so curious about their remaster forms. And Yeah, I just had a blast when I was playing it, man. So I see the burning questions. What are you
Okay.
wondering?
How big can your party be? How many
It
cassettes can I
is
carry with me at a time?
so there are the two that you have on you that you will transform when battle starts, and then I believe it is 5 other spots. So technically 7 at a time.
Okay. Um, are there other trainers that I'm fighting? Or is
There
it
are
always wild?
there are points where you have to get to certain parts of the map, and it does the Pokemon thing where they're planted in a certain spot that you have to pass, and then they initiate a battle. So you
Okay.
fight other people.
Are there TM and HM equivalents, or is it just TMs?
So the only difference is that it's just moves. However, there are 3 vendors in the main town that give you certain stickers. The one that stood out to me was the passive sticker seller, because there are some passive stickers. Let me tell you something. There was one passive sticker that you could put on your monster, and what it did was if you critically hit a monster, it will automatically use the next move in your move list for 0 AP.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. But yes, they're
Are
passives and actives.
are stickers reusable?
Yeah, you just take it off the Pokemon and then put it on somebody else. In fact, you're kind of inclined to remove stickers because there are certain abilities that I didn't get to this point, but there's something in each Pokedex like entry called bootlegs, and I never found out what that was. But what I think it is you can catch the monsters with different typing, and then it's a bootleg of the original one. But I don't know. I don't know how that
Hmm.
works. I don't think I got to that point. And yeah,
Are there the equivalent of gyms?
I think those would be the subways that you have to go to fight the archangels. I think
That
that's
okay.
what that would be considered.
Hmm. Okay.
Like I
Are there
told you.
different tiers of cassettes that you can use to record? So like Pokeball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball.
So you
Yeah,
start off
right.
with a basic
All
tape,
right.
and then I believe the next level was called a chrome tape. But here's the cool thing: you even get other tapes that are designed to increase the likelihood of catching a specific type. So you have a tape that increases likelihood of catching lightning or plastic or whatever. So there are specific tapes, and then there's basic catch-all tapes that
Yeah,
improve also.
they're really leaning into that one, huh? Um, okay.
Mm-hmm. Like I
Yeah,
told
all
you,
right.
you're gonna have a hard time figuring out what to play next.
Yeah, okay. No, that goes right onto the Legion, and that's that, I guess. All
I
right.
convinced him!
Well done.
Yay!
Oh man. Okay. Um, that sucks. All right. So, in other news, I guess. So while you found yourself a game that was something that really occupied your mind and made you want to keep going back to, I may have found the perfect game for I have a little bit of time to play.
Actually, speaking of that, Cassette Beasts is great for that because the story, very simple, pretty straightforward. Beat the Archangels, do the other quests in between, and you can just pick up and play for a few minutes at a time. Continue.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I will. In this case, so my game again this week is Moonlighter by 11-Bit Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in Moonlighter, you play a character who inherits a store, the family store, and you work in the store by day,
Yep.
but at night you adventure into dungeons to find artifacts that you use to sell in your store. So you are playing the role of both storefront and supplier for yourself. And the game opens up by seeing the day end of your day selling and venturing forth into the very first area where they give you, your movement tutorial teach you what your buttons do, which I will say is potentially my only knock on the game is what buttons do what. And I only say that because it is such a stark difference to any other game I've played as far as button layout goes. So in this case, your dodge roll is your right trigger. And
Oh,
just that all by itself caused me so much absolute chaos that I took so much unnecessary damage by not rolling at a time I wanted to roll, or by rolling at a time I absolutely did not want to roll into something. So that's a thing, but that's just, user error. So you get through that, and you're going through your first dungeon, and the only weapon that you have is your broom, which you use as a thrusting weapon. And needless to say, when you're fighting monsters, a broom handle, not a particularly strong weapon.
nope.
So you reach the inevitable point where you are just absolutely overwhelmed and you die and get warped out of the dungeon and you're just laying face down. You get picked up by an old man, and the old man safely carries you back to town, brings you back into your store because he knows who you are, and is taking care of you. And after you come to in the next morning, you are met with just a cajoling old man telling you, you really can't keep doing this. You're working way too hard. I know you're trying to supply the store, but you can't keep doing this to yourself. It's too dangerous. And man, a broom is such a terrible weapon. So he sighs, takes a deep breath, and walks over to this chest where his family heirloom is. And as you may imagine, when an old man gives you a sword, the following line
Tell me he says it.
the following line occurs.
It's dangerous
It
to
is
go
dangerous to
alone.
go alone.
Take
Take
this.
this. And
Yes.
from that point on, your loop begins. And so you finally have a weapon. You go into your equip screen. You have the ability to have two weapons equipped at a time. So technically speaking, you could have your broom equipped if you really wanted to do that. Which is kind of your initial soft introduction to weapon types. So you have your sword and shield as a weapon type, which is what you're given initially. The broom is your thrusting weapon, so your spear, but you can get more spears. You have your two-handed weapons. You also have fists. You have bows. You have a bunch of different stuff you can get. And what you start doing, and your loop is introduced to you, you go into the dungeon, you fight and defeat monsters, and those monsters will drop things. And then you bring those things back to your shop, and you get to decide what each one of them sells for. And you're introduced to the shopkeeping mechanic where there is a perfect price where people are absolutely thrilled to buy and they will buy it at that price. Right? There's the perfect price. Then there's if it's cheaper than that, well, they're absolutely going to buy it. And then there's tiers of it being way too expensive. There's no indication whatsoever other than the face icon that appears above your shopping patrons when they go and look at the stacks of items that you have for sale.
Uh-huh.
So you get to do a little guess and check as far as finding what the perfect price is for the things that you find. Your only indicator of whether or not something it should cost more or less is when you go and find it in the dungeon. You can sort by item value, but you don't know what the value is.
Can you edit it real time? Like as people are shopping, can you make changes, or is it you? It's that for the day, and then you have to change
When
it after it's closed.
when you put your stack out, so you only have four places that you can put items to sell
Sure.
initially. When you do that, as they're looking at it, if they make a face, you can go and change what the unit price is. And then fortunately, it remembers that price. But you can actually put stacks of the same item in one place. So instead of buying, one thing, you can buy three of them. And it will
Mm.
automatically triple the price, of course, because it's three of them. Um, and so finding that careful balance is great because then you get brought into your subsystems, right? And you're trying to make money. And you're initially trying to make money because this same old guy comes up to you and says, "We really need to try to revitalize this town. It would be great if we could try to pay some other vendors and merchants to come to the town and set up a shop."
We
And
do
so
this in D and D.
that's how you get your weapon merchant. That's how you get your potions merchant. That's how you get a guy who literally competes with your store and tries to sell similar things. But what that lets you do is that lets you buy things that you may need from him instead of going into the dungeon and trying to get them yourself. And that's where your real resource management comes in, because the same items that you sell in your store, you are required if you want to craft new weapons. So you need those items to craft weapons. So do you sell them to make money, or do you keep them in your chest at home to use them to craft new weapons? You need those same items to make potions. So do you sell them, or do you bring them home and try to make potions? And the problem is, when you go into dungeons, you have a row of inventory at the top, and then you have the rest of your inventory at the bottom, which I want to say off the top of my head is 3 or maybe 4 by 6, or 6 by 4, I guess.
Okay.
Um, if you die in the dungeon, which is all random generated, so it's roguelite in that way. If you die in the dungeon, you lose everything but your first row. You cannot go back in and reclaim it. It's basically you have to do an entire new run. The dungeons have multiple floors that you have to progress on. Each floor has a boss. If you spend too much time in the dungeon, some weird ghost specter thing starts to come after you.
Like Persona.
So you have to try to clear in a certain way. There's a way that you can escape the dungeon, but you can't use that item to escape the dungeon unless you have enough money. So you acquire a tool that you can turn the items that you find into gold in real time, but it's not necessarily the value you sell them for. So you
Sure.
have to be strategic about those things. So this game is the perfect harmony between a roguelite, a store management simulator, an inventory management simulator, and also a little bit of character action.
Art style.
It delivered in a very like pixelated old world, think like Zelda, a halfway point between Zelda 1 and 2.
Music.
Exactly what you expect. Thematic, more so than anything. No swelling scores or anything, but it's a very simple game. But what it is it's very fun. And so your loop is
Okay.
go into dungeon, like do your store stuff in the day, go into dungeon at night, because there is a time passing mechanic, of course. Some merchants are only available at night, some are not available at night at all. You can't even recruit certain merchants during nighttime. So you
What
have to
is
figure out how you want to do that.
what is your ultimate overarching goal? Is it just is
You are
it
looking to uncover the mysteries of what these dungeons are, because there's an adventurer who used to go in and try to explore them, who went missing, and you actually end up finding his body pretty early on. But you are trying to uncover the mysteries as far as what these dungeons are and what their implications are.
interesting?
And while doing that, you're trying to grow a store and become stronger. It can buy new equipment, craft new equipment, but the stuff you need to craft your equipment is the stuff you sell in your store.
Makes
It's
sense.
uh
Did
it's
you
a
get
lot.
did you get choice paralysis at any point?
Only as far as what types of weapons I wanted to use.
Okay.
Because there's pros and cons, right? Shield and sword, you have a block. And honestly, this game is not easy. The default difficulty setting of this game, which it gives you little descriptions, the default difficulty setting, which is what the developers wanted the game to be, is not normal. It's hard. So the default game setting is hard. So I played it on hard because I wanted to get the experience the game developers wanted.
Sure.
It is not an easy game. If you've played Binding of Isaac or any other roguelike of the type, it is punishing. The difference is this time the stuff you get, if you can make it out of the dungeon, or if you just decide to leave via your ability to do that by paying gold, you actually get a chance to have your permanent growth, because each weapon you craft has tiered progression. So you start with one weapon, and from there you can craft one of two things. One might do a status or a different weapon damage type. One just does raw numbers. So when
Under-
I stopped playing, I was using a two-handed sword, which of course attacked very slowly. But you know me, big numbers, big swing. Then you work on your dodging. But there's discovered, like, notable. They tell you that there's iframes on your dodge roll.
oh,
So you get good
great.
at doing your dodge timing, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so this game is a lot of fun. However, if you don't necessarily enjoy the idea of trying to grow through dungeon exploration, because if your mindset is I'm going to go in and I'm going to clear the dungeon, chances are you're going to have a bad time. because you
Fair
can't
enough.
clear. You're not going to walk your first time. As soon as you get that initial sword and shield, you are not going to walk in and clear the dungeon unless you're an absolute savant about games like this.
That's fair.
Odds are you're going to have to do this loop multiple times, and so for me that was very difficult because I want to go in and I was trying to push and see how far into the dungeon I can get because each floor you go to, there's better stuff that you can sell for higher amounts and that is required to make better things. But you can't even make better things unless you've made the tier before it because that version of the sword is a requisite material.
Yeah, it makes sense. This company. So I looked up 11-bit Studios, and this company, I gotta say, they have a pedigree of making, of really fine tuning their games to. As far as I'm understanding, it seems like your choices are meaningful as far as like what to upgrade, what to pick. It seems like each thing you do is meaningful, from what it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a pedigree of that because I looked up some games they've made. Frostpunk, which is a city building simulator in like a frozen apocalypse wasteland. I played a little bit of it. Super awesome what I played. Thaumaturge, which is a storytelling RPG that just came out, I think, a couple months ago. That I played the demo for. Super fun, super awesome. Children of Morta never played, but then there's this one game they made that I saw called This War of Mine. And that game, ooh, is rough. Ooh, is rough as far as choices go because I can't remember which war, if it's a fictional war or not, but it takes place in war and you have to make choices to keep people alive. Think of Oregon Trail, but a lot more
Oh,
dire and a lot more sad,
oh,
and your choices are hard. It's like a mix of Fallout Shelter, Oregon Trail, and with the sadness of Near. Like it's like that.
oh.
Really sad. But your choices are meaningful and there's no right choice. There's probably like an ideal way to play or whatever, but yeah. It's so this company seems to have a pedigree of making your choices matter, which is awesome. But
I mean, for sure, it's not worth understating. So they published the game, but it was developed by Digital Sun, which is just a Spanish indie studio. It was
oh,
definitely a good time to come and play this because I may or may not have mentioned last week. I can't recall. But this game has a sequel that's supposed to be coming out this year, and with just what they've started with here, I there's a lot of potential for what this sequel could be. I don't think they have much that they need to change though. I mean, it's if they want to refine certain things, sure, but I mean, it's
have you looked
the
up like any differences or anything, or do you just know that there's a sequel coming?
I just know that there's a sequel coming this year. I
Uh,
haven't even done any digging as far as what that might be. Um,
yeah,
but it's
I
definitely it's a very interesting game. I know you've always been very fascinated by the concept of like being the store owner.
but dude,
And so the
like
choices there are in fact upgrades to your store. So when you go and you're looking to expand the town, you can choose to either expand the town and bring new merchants in, or you can buy stuff for your store. So you can get like a sale bin, or you can expand the number of tables where you can put goods. Eventually, I believe you can expand your own inventory, which is great because I found a lot of difficulty managing what my inventory was in the dungeon because there are things that you pick up in the dungeon that are considered cursed items where you can
oh,
only place them in certain places in your inventory. So your
interesting.
sorting is completely thrown off. One of the curses is you don't even know what you've picked up until you leave the dungeon. And
That's
so
fun.
like the inventory management is actually a huge part of this game because you have to be very tactical. You might have a bunch of things that you need in order to make, new armor, new weapons, potions, right? But you may find something that you've never seen before. And it might sell for a super high amount of money, or it may be something that is required for a later piece of gear. I found that there was a couple instances where I came into what looked like a portal inside of the dungeon, which I did some research on, and it actually took you to a room that you would have actually found in the next dungeon, which you can only unlock by fully beating this first one. So you can even unlock some future materials that you
Oh.
would not have normally been able to access in that dungeon. So the inventory management is a huge part of this game. And
See,
it's brain numbing for somebody like me who does in fact get analysis paralysis pretty often. I want to make the right or optimal decision, and so there isn't one.
that's a
And
good
so it
thing though.
just lets you go in, you play, you do what you want. You may find stuff you're looking for, you may not, and then you move on.
So the gameplay loop sounds a lot like a game that came out last year that was an indie darling called Dave the Diver,
Hmm.
which is a game where same thing, you're running a sushi bar, but when you're not running the sushi
Mm-hmm.
bar, you're going under to catch the fish and everything. So and that was very beloved. So it sounds a lot like that. Um, but I if anybody listening has any suggestions for like a great shopkeeping game, I'm the dude who always wonders like what would it be like to be in an RPG world and just be a normal citizen. What would that be like to be the guy who sells potions to the overpowered level 20 paladin? Like, what's that like? You know?
I think there's a lot of mobile games for that, to be honest with
Most
you.
likely, most likely. But I want like a dedicated like cutscene story. Like I want that. Like the passion put to that. And there are some like Reciteer I think is one of those, but I haven't found one that like has gripped me in that way. Because what I've noticed, and I could be wrong, is that a lot of them are that pixelated art style, which is fine. But I want like give me a double A anime style game where it like that's what you do when you're running a shop. I don't know, but that
My
does.
life as the Emperor's sword master.
That's you're just creating an isekai now. But that I think I'm convinced because I've seen it around. I wasn't quite sure what it was. I thought I could tell because of the title Moonlighter, but I think I'm convinced that is definitely another game to add to the backlog. You are now 5 for 5. You and yeah, I'll give that a try when I'm looking for something to play. With that said, it is time for us to wrap it up. Next episode is going to be slightly different because the next episode is entirely dedicated to a game called Avowed. Avowed is an open world RPG by Obsidian, who made the amazing Fallout New Vegas and the, for me personally, amazing Outer Worlds. I know some people bounced off of it. But it is what we will be talking about. It takes place in the world of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. I believe the world is called Eordia. And it is... We're going to talk a lot about this in the episode, but it is being very unfairly compared to Skyrim, and I don't think that that is the right mindset to play the game with, because that's not what it is. But we will talk more about that in the next episode. Thank you all for listening. If you would like to hear more, please check out the links in the bottom. Convince Me Gaming on Spotify, Convince Me Podcast on Reddit, Convince Me Media on YouTube and Instagram, and we have a Discord. We would love to hear from you, and as we always say, thank you so much for taking the time to listen, whether you're family, friend, or acquaintance, or somebody who's just tuning in. Your time means a lot, and I don't know that we can overstate how much it means to us, to anybody listening. So
Appreciate you guys.
with that said, see you next time, and are you convinced yet?